Hello.
Hey, Alvaro.
Sorry, the call was appearing in my mobile phone and not in the PC. Well, this game, a disaster.
Excuse me?
This game has been a disaster.
So tell me how you felt on that game, and especially what was going through your head at different stages.
Okay, for a start, I wanted to do too much things, so that I want to do a lot of things, but the problem was that it's a lot of information and I didn't know what to do exactly in all moments. So I don't know. This synthhead has been a pain in the neck.
Yeah, carry on.
Kill me all time, and I think that we could win in a 5 versus 4 than Synhead was in our Tower of Inhibitor, but we could 5 versus 4, but he preferred to back off, and then we lose. But I started with a little lag. And then up I improved my my E 2 times in level 3. I don't know, I was a little nervous at the start, and I didn't like this game too much.
All right. You remember what I told you about not thinking about anything in specific, just playing and letting things naturally come back? This is exactly what I meant. As a matter of fact, this is one of the reasons I wanted to do a second game, so that you could live it once and later on not do it again. This is why it's so important at the end of the lesson. You go through the notes, you think about the lesson, even if it takes 1 or 2 hours, just to put all these ideas in your head. maybe while you take a shit. I like to think when I'm taking a shit, you know.
Yeah.
That's you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Yeah, you know, you just put your ideas straight and then you forget, and you just go in game and let things come naturally. Now, this game was hard for you. Even the enemy picks were not particularly easy. Soraka is obviously extremely hard against Katarina, since whatever damage you do, she can just reverse with the click of one button. There was a lot of CC in general, and Zed is very hard to lane against when you're playing Katarina. As you well know, you probably even know it better than me, because you've probably played Katarina even more than I did. So yeah, Zed is a pain. Let's go ahead and go through the game, see what you did right and wrong. I'll try to keep it more simple than last time and try to repeat things that were said before so that they start to, you know, really go into your head. Tell me when you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. You can see the screen?
Yes.
Again, this game, there were some very good actions, and then there were some pretty big mistakes. At the end, it seemed like you were getting a little bit impatient, and you went back to doing, well, the mistakes I saw in the first one, which was forcing a little bit too much. And in the end, that never works. So in the late game, you really need to calm down and go as a team, wait for that front line to engage, and then do your job. That's the best way you can help your teammates. If you start to force, and if you start to do very solo actions, most of the time you're just going to get outplayed, and it's going to turn around and against you. So first thing when we enter the lane, Singed is immediately present top, Zed is present mid, bot lane is missing, we'll see them arriving later, which means our Jarvan has started in the bot side. From that point on, we just follow him mentally. Our Lee Sin also started in the bot side, so it's actually pretty easy to follow on the Jarvan. Wherever Lee Sin is, Jarvan isn't going to be very far behind. You have to become slightly more sensitive to when the Zed might believe that he can attack you. You have to avoid the shurikens, and remember that when you go to put an auto attack to take a creep, that might be a moment where he tries to attack you, since you're going to be CC'd for half a second. There again, could have predicted that shuriken and could have avoided it.
Mm-hmm.
In general, all you need to know about the shuriken is that it's on about 5 to 6 second cooldown, depending on how much cooldown he has. So every time he uses it, you just mentally count 5 seconds. Once those 5 seconds are gone, just assume he's going to use it at any moment. This is something especially top laners work a lot, because top lane is very 1v1 intensive, but it also applies to the mid lane. So knowing enemy cooldowns and predicting. At this point, I'm guessing you weren't quite sure where Jarvan was, which is why you used the ward, and that's a valid reason. He happens to just show up now top, or else you could have saved that ward. From this point on, you don't need to think about him anymore. Just a quick click on his HP when he leaves, and that's it. So for now, what we see is that he's pretty much full HP. Full HP, excuse me, 3/4 HP, so he might continue on the top side once he's finished on the lane. Here you took just a little bit too much aggression. Lee Sin comes in to place some pressure, which allows you to remain on lane. And ultimately, it's going to make you try and kill the Zed, which ends up in 1 kill, 1 assist for you and Lee Sin, and 1 kill for Zed. So positive for you.
Yes, was positive, but then the lane was pushed so bad. I mean, after this, Lee dies, and it gives all the experience to the line to fail.
I know, Jarvan comes in. Jarvan's going to take almost all the creeps. At least it's not Zed that's getting them. And here the biggest problem is that it renews a blue buff on Jarvan, which is going to make him a lot more present within the jungle. Because he can decide to invest this blue buff either in super farming, that means farming faster than Lee Sin for a few minutes, or he can use it to gank. If I was Jarvan, I'd just farm so that I can get my level 6 quickly, then start ganking the bot lane. Now, needless to say, wherever you place a ward is the area where you're going to be standing. So if you place a ward here, you should be on the bottom half of your lane if you want to stay safe. You see why this is a problem?
Yes.
Where are you standing?
Yes. In the other side. Yes.
This seems, simple, but it's a common mistake. And if you play the jungle, this is exactly how junglers think. So if I was playing the jungle, for example, doing a camp, I'd be constantly clicking between lanes to see where people are, if they're pushing, if they're getting pushed, etc. And then we decide to gank depending on that. So here you put yourself right in the mouth of the wolf. So of course, you're not going to be able to win the lane directly against Zed. Not only does he already have more gold than you, but in general, he deals more damage since he's physical. So he's well equipped to fight you. So you obviously have to win through ganking. That's not something that worries me. It's one of your strong points. You're really good at ganking. And I hope that's something that you're going to preserve in between today and next time we see each other. In addition, working the things which you're weak at. So yeah, here you don't want to be the person who gets engaged by Zed, of course. If you decided to engage on Tristana, then you could have tried something. This was well played, puts pressure on the bot lane, you guys get a kill. You can then repeat later. So here you will have to move to the action very quickly.
This was strange.
Well, right now engaging the enemies is hard because you're all split. See, the enemies are in a 3 and 1 formation, right? You guys are 1, 2, 3. So until you guys don't group up, you can't really fight them, or you can't fight them effectively. So here you got completely wrecked.
Yes.
So at this point, this is what had to be done. Instead of taking the creeps here, you should have gone immediately to the Drake. Your allies needed to group up with you. That way, all 4 of you could have gone this way together. From the moment that you did not go, you should have actually just stayed on the lane, right? And pressure so that Zed loses some farm, and that way you could have recuperated some of the farm difference. So it was either one or the other. Here you did the worst of both worlds. You didn't go for the Drake, and when you went split, ended up just dying. It's okay, shit happens, everybody makes mistakes. So 2 for 1 on the top lane for your allies. You're going to fight the Zed very effectively here, and now you get to push. There's a good action on multiple fronts. Now here I wouldn't bother to push the tower excessively. I would take 1 wave, and then I'd go to complete vision somewhere. So place either vision there or there, and move on. because there's no way you can take this tower. There's already one tower that's being taken top by Jax. So here on your way, you should have placed a ward, just so that you had more complete ward inside the jungle before you went bot to see if something was possible. So we can expect Zed moving towards his ally. As soon as he shows up, we get confirmation that that was where he was. What was that? I hear very strange noises coming from your microphone.
I don't hear it.
So your allies on Jarvan, you decided to go up onto the Zed. In a few seconds, I'm going to ask you a question.
What?
In a few seconds, I'm going to ask you a question once you've taken out the cog. All right, quick look at the minimap. What needs to be done? For starters, what's the point of interest?
Tower, mid lane, and Herald.
All right, anything else?
Drake.
Exactly, Drake in 40 seconds. So what's the most important area for you to be in focus your energy so that you can actually be in range of all of these things? So once this tower is done, what can you go do?
To ward Drake.
Sure, you can ward Drake. Why not? Janna as well can ward Drake. But first things first, we need to spend the money.
Yes.
And then you're going to focus on your own lane, on mid. Because by being mid, you're going to be close to every single objective that you need. Then you need to reroute your allies to do what you need them to. So for example, you want Janna to be mid with you. Tristana can go bot and can, anti-push. But Janna and Lee Sin need to be with you or close to you. From there, you can do an action. So I'm teaching you how to think so that then in-game you can do the same instead of just feeling a little bit lost. So when in doubt, look for objectives, place vision, and rally allies. So here, they managed to get, well, they're taking the Herald for the moment. In the meantime, your Lee Sin is taking the Drake, so it's Herald for Drake. You guys remain in advantage, since your allies bot are creating pressure. This is when you're going to go back mid, if I believe, and Singe is going to try and take the tower with the Herald directly, and you're just going to own him. Here we go. Let's do some super slow motion.
But he's so tanky. But well. What good?
Did you need to flash there?
I think yes, because he was faster and I wasn't in the range of Q.
Yeah, correct. So you guys put a lot of pressure on the tower, you take out the Singed. This is going well for your team. Top lane is pushing, bot lane is pushing. Why is this important? Because now you can predict the two people are going to be moving there. So somebody's going to have to defend this and somebody's going to have to defend this. All right?
Yes.
You can already see that this guy is probably going to go up there. maybe not. We'll see. Okay, so actually Cog goes there. But still, you can predict that enemies are going to go at certain places if you have already pre-pushed. So then you can organize a new action. John is doing a good job placing vision within the jungle. Let's see if she places one here as well. She should. Here you come on your way. Always pay attention to those spells being used so that you know who is vulnerable and who can actually still deal damage to you. Are you managing to piece all this together? Because I'm keeping it more simple this time so that you have more time to think as well. You still with me, Alvaro?
Yes. I'm focused.
What are you doing all the way there at the back?
No, I'm focused. I said.
Oh, okay. Couldn't hear you. Here it's the revenge of Singed.
Yes.
Nothing you can do about it.
Lee Sin do so well, but I don't know why I don't have damage or why he's so tanky.
All right. It doesn't have to do with you not having damage. It has to do with them in a 1v1, in a direct 1v1. He can tank all your damage, and he still has enough damage to kill you because you're a squishy. That's why I was telling you in the last game, a bruiser like Irelia will always be able to 1v1 you once they're tanky enough. In this particular game, it would have actually been positive for you if you had gone slightly tankier sooner. Because you had a very hard time surviving in fights and dealing enough damage. So sometimes just surviving and dealing less damage, you'll end up more useful. Correct me if I'm wrong, you probably felt like you were, a bit half useless in most fights, especially when the tanks were just sticking onto you, so Jarvan and Singed specifically. But all this, the itemization, when to buy and how to buy, depending on your teammates and enemies, this is something we'll talk in the future. Just like loading screen, figuring out what your game plan is going to be, depending on the enemies, all this is for the future. For now, we'll focus on the biggest mistakes, which I told you already. Right now, vision needs to be reapplied. Otherwise, it's very hard to know where they are and what they're doing.
Yes. We only see there and on German.
You know, Soraka's there, Cog's there, so we know at least 4 people are present. And we know Singed was in the bot lane, so he will be coming back. As a matter of fact, if we calculate, Singed will be arriving at this fight in the next 5 seconds. You have him on map already. Here he is to annoy you again. So here you made a mistake. Sometimes the best way to safety, Alvaro, isn't to run away directly from the enemy, but to run at the enemy and towards your allies.
Yes.
Now earlier you remember I asked you if you had to flash, and you told me yes, because I was out of range and Singed is faster. So if Singed is so fast and his ghost is activated, do you think that by flashing a little bit here, you're going to survive?
No.
So here, when he flung you up there, your eyes should have immediately gone to this Tristana and Jax, and you should have started running up. And they would have defended you. You see? Because right now, you're running away from them, and you're making the Singed also go away from them. All right, let's put back global vision and get you back to life. So far, many mistakes in this game. And it's holding your teammates back. Because this is the moment where you're strongest. Or at least this was, the moment where you were strongest. From now on, enemies are going to start to have a lot of magic resistance. Since they're going to be finishing their magic resistance items, it's going to be harder for you. That's a good pickup with an Asher. See what I mean by getting a little bit of tanky items would have helped?
I don't used to buy item tanks.
I know you're not. But here, a Liandry would have been very useful. Would have helped you survive longer in fights, would have given you burst damage early on against Soraka, Zed, and Cog, and later on, it would help you deal damage against Jarvan and Singed. So haunting guys into Liandry as soon as the Zonia was over. Because right now you're so...
That was so unlucky because I activate my head states. But it was very...
okay.
At this point, I didn't have any idea of what to do. At this moment, I was so impatient because I want to fight and win the game.
All right, I can understand why you don't know what to do, because there isn't any specific objective up, which means the only objectives are going to be enemy towers. So if you guys are in advantage, right, and you're going to be pushing forwards, you need to place vision around these objectives, right? And then you move from there. So the answer is vision around the towers that are most exposed, group up as a team, and try to catch somebody out of position. So Janna was actually trying. She wanted to ward over there, but right now she can't. You also participated in vision. It's a little bit short, but eventually you guys will be able to place it. Why will you be able to place it? Because you're going to push them in, so they're going to end up under tower, and at that point you can place vision a little bit deeper. So here soon we're going to realize that Jax is in a 1 versus 2, 3 versus 2, and you guys should have gone to help him slightly sooner. You basically traded Jax for a tower, which isn't great, since Jarvan immediately engaged afterwards. Here you did good, splitting them back. Completely cleaned up, so excellent. This action was very similar to what you should have done last game when you were supposed to split the 3 at the back line. So I see here that you listened and you applied. So great fight for you. Don't remember if Zed managed to kill you. He does, but still. Personally, your fight was good. Here goes another one, so you're going to have to be patient, or else that Singe can just directly shove right into you. You guys peel for the Tristana and the Zed at the back. Time to reposition. You go right into the Cog. Great action.
Here I had Ignite and Hestage, so that was me bad. Totally. But well.
Tell me.
I don't know if this was good or bad, because I split it and I don't know if it would be a better idea to fight with my team.
would be.
Yes.
You're not the one that wants to be doing the splitting, all right? It's always going to be the top lane when his TP is up, because that way he can join the team directly. You can't join them very quickly. So this action, obviously, you took a tower, but you end up dying afterwards. But being present in the fight, it would have helped your teammates. Why would it help? Because the enemies have got a more solid front line. With Singed, Jarvan, and a Soraka healing, this front line is going to take ages to kill by this Tristana. She simply doesn't have the damage to kill them fast enough. And so eventually she gets dived upon by the assassin, and fight is over.
But we could won 4 versus 5 because Jax didn't have TP.
Win, you wouldn't win, but the enemies weren't able to engage you directly. So basically all you had to do was retreat, retreat, retreat until Jax either takes this or an enemy recalls.
Okay.
And once the enemy recalls, it's a 4v4. You have higher chances. So here the biggest problem isn't so much that they lost the fight and you died, despite you guys taking 3 objectives. The problem is the enemies are going to follow up with Nasha. And the Nasha is going to be way more worth it. $15 grams of cocaine, Kog'Maw.
OP.
That's enough cocaine for a lifetime. This is where the game pretty much turns for you guys. Because now they're going to become a really annoying problem.
I think that there was a problem. Singer was splitting and it was a 5 versus 4, but he refused to engage, and I tilted. I was tilted.
They're not as weak as you think, right? If you guys engage in a 5 versus 4, they're under tower with the Nasha buff. All right, so in reality right now, you guys have no choice. You have to go defend against Singed. End of story. Until that Nasha isn't over, this is a bad situation for you guys to be in. So here we're just wasting time and Singed is taking a tower. Jax eventually understands and goes, which he should have done from the start because he has TP to join you back. Singed in the meantime closing in for a 5 versus 4. Let's hope Jax is fast to react. Dive right into your Tristana. No Tristana means no DPS to kill the tanks. Soraka's just going to heal everyone, and it's pretty much end of game.
All for the Baron. Well, I think that it was for a heart, because I wanted is that I told you at the start I wanted to do a lot of things, but I didn't know what to do in every moment. So next games I will just clean my mind and just play.
Let's recap what has to be done, all right? So in between now and next time. Obviously, you need to work on the things that I told you today. I've already explained how to do it. End of lesson, you think about everything, clear your mind, and then you go in-game and you let things come back naturally. You should train these things for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Take back the notes, read them once more, and finish working on what you forgot. So what your brain didn't naturally just remind you. So far, is it clear?
Yes.
All right. Other thing you need to do, I want you to have at least one extra champion well worked on and ready to show me next time. Because remember, you need to push your games from 3 or 4 that you told me was the average, or 2 or 3. Don't remember, I think it was 2 or 3. You need to push your average games from 2 or 3 to about 6, 7 a day, if you can, and get at least 2 champions. All right, just Katarina, it's going to be a problem. Katarina is not very strong in the meta anymore. She's not like the best pick. Many people you're going to face mid, like Zed, like Jace, like Orianna, it's going to be hard for you. All right, if it's not hard directly on lane, it's going to be hard, for example, in late game against Syndras and against Oriannas. They simply have more impact, and you need to have another champion ready. And preferably, Alvaro, I don't want you to pick something that's similar. I don't want another assassin. So I don't want to see a Zed. I don't want to see a Fizz. I want to see something completely different from what you're used to playing, and that actually brings diversity.
Okay. What you recommend? Because I don't have any idea. I play all the champs. O sea, I mean, I can play all the champs, but what would you recommend?
All right, really strong picks that are going to be appreciated by pro teams later on are going to be things like Syndra, Orianna, TF. Anything along those lines is going to be great, but it doesn't mean I'm close to you playing something else. You can absolutely pick something else. Those are just my recommendations. If one of these 3 champions you enjoy, go ahead and get good with it. If you don't, find something else.
Okay, Syndra is nice, and TF I've never played, and Orianna also I like it.
Then test all 3, find which one you prefer, and then work on it, just as much as you worked on the Katarina. Keep in mind, these champions will have very different playstyle from a Katarina. As a matter of fact, in some things, it's going to feel a little bit worse because you won't have as much direct damage and impact in the mid game. But in things like the late game, you're going to feel really good because you won't feel like, oh, I need to wait. When do I go in? When do I take the risk? You'll just be at the back next to the ADC dealing massive AoE damage. So, good side, bad side, that's why we want the diversity, so that you get to pick what's best for the matchup, and you don't, auto-pick Katarina and then get countered.
Okay.
Any final questions for today, Alvaro?
For the moment, I think that I don't have any questions. I just try to see my notes and do what you told me and play a lot of games. Well, I'll play these 3 champs, but in flex maybe or normal.
Yeah. You test them first in normal. Don't forget, I want to see you play a lot more ranked.
Okay.
Right, so in general, unless you're testing or warming up one game in the morning, you should be playing ranked all the time. Because if you play a low amount of ranked, it's going to be hard to see if you've improved, lost level, and overall you're just going to be playing against weaker players, so your level won't evolve as quickly as it should. Otherwise, and I'm going to repeat it, I'm actually surprised with your level, because like I said, some things that are harder to work on, your level is already very high on, and that's very positive. And then your level is beneath what is normal at Diamond 5 on other things, which are the ones I corrected for you today. So now you just need to work on them, and you should see a rise in level very rapidly in the future. Next time we see each other should be in about 3 weeks. This way you'll have time to work on everything. So something like the weekend of the 27th. So Friday 27th, for example, you should contact me so that we have lesson either 28 or 29. 3 weeks will be a good amount of time. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I'll be seeing you next time.
Okay, I like the season a lot of the teach.
You like the what?
Yes, I enjoyed a lot of, and I learned so much. Now I have to take all the information and improve.
Well, you're welcome, Alvaro. I enjoyed the lesson as well. I'll be seeing you next time. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye, mate.
Thanks. pero igualmente no sé.
Hello again, Alvaro. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, un carrileado del team. My impression is that let's see, let me see it. No, nada, que iba a decir los audios y tal. Si lo hemos hablado todo.
Solo no, llama a papá. Que no lo tengas que repetir.
Hello again, Alvaro. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is complex at higher level? So many decisions, so many things to think about?
No. It's a lot of information and in a little time, so you have to take a decision in seconds. And
Yeah.
igualmente lo he grabado todo. I don't know if si le fastidiará o algo, pero bueno. A ver un momento. Sí.